Somebody said it's not really like that, but you know what I'm trying to say, that when you look at companies in Nigeria, you can clearly say who owns UP, Zenith, GTV, and all sorts. So we need to rethink the governance model for private family business in Nigeria. And what I'm advocating is that we should look at our culture and what model really suits that culture. And that culture is about concept ownership. So how do we expand, standardize, and even expand on this concept ownership to suit our cultural peculiarities? The next question that is, how do you invite family members to a business when they have very divergent income? I think that's the question. Very divergent income. And I will explain with an illustration. A man wanted to register a business, and he was told that he's not a Nigerian. So that the only way he can register is to get a Nigerian who can be in the business. And what he did is to use his driver's name. He didn't want to share the business with many people. So the driver said, I'm just a driver. He said, don't you like money? The driver said, oh, I like money. Once it comes to money, I want even more salaries than him. So let's put your name down. So after about 30 years, the company sold 30% of their shares, and I think they sold about $600 million. And the 1% turned out to be $12 million that should go to the driver. So when the driver was started dancing, I said, we haven't even sold anything, and I already have $12 million. So if we now sell, we need 70%. So what I'm trying to say is, even when you have very divergent interests, we all like money. So all you need to do is to get somebody to run the business, and every Christmas, I'm sure you like receiving an alert. So once you receive an alert, all the rivalry will definitely disappear. And the last one is, how do you communicate the change of both family members? Which I think the young man asked the question. I think, just to support what they said, I think that what needs to be done is to clearly invite them to training and say, Dad or Uncle, there's something that we did. But when you say it, they might not listen to you. But I'm sure that when Prof says it, they will listen to it. Thank you very much.
It's time for tea. Thank you. Well done. Please, our tea break is for 10 minutes only. It's already done. We're running. Around the world. He's also at the European School of Economics and Business. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Antonio Ragusa. Thank you. Put your hands together.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you for your participation, all the speakers. I've heard a lot of interesting things, so we never stop learning. So we're never professors, we're always students. It's my first time in Nigeria, and it's a great honor to be with you, a great pleasure. I was in Cameroon in July. I have also some African origins. Actually, my father was born in Libya, Tripoli, during the Second World War, so I'm very connected to Africa too. So I'm going to talk about family business, obviously, and I'm going to talk about the Italian experience, because I think and hope it can give us some additional stimuli, ideas and perspectives. So basically, I'll introduce the topic by talking about Italian economy and about the importance that family businesses have in Italy. I'll talk about the scenarios of family-owned business all over the world, with a focus on Europe and then Italy. And then the final part of my speech would be about succession planning, which is the key issue and challenge that we have all over the world, not only in Italy, Nigeria, but really on an international scale. So first of all, the Italian economy in a nutshell. So Italy is the 8th economy of the world in terms of gross domestic product. It's an export-led economy, so basically our activity are based on exporting products, especially towards Europe, but now the exports and trade with Africa are growing a lot. Our main destinations of exporting activities are Germany and France currently. We are quite poor in terms of energy and raw materials, so we have to buy and import a lot of oil from all over the world and gas. And the most interesting thing for our forum is the fact that Italian companies are quite small. The majority of Italian companies are small and medium enterprises, and most importantly, they are family businesses. So let's have a look at what happens all over the world in terms of family business. If we consider the top 500 companies of the world, we can see that 35% of them are family businesses. I'm sure that some of you at least own a Samsung smartphone. Do you? Yeah, Samsung is a family business. It's one of the largest companies of the world and it's owned by a family. If you look at the leading economy of the world, at least so far, the United States, the situation is not so different. So the 80% of the American companies are family businesses too. And 50% of all the American employees are employed by family business, family-owned companies. And they represent the 50% of the gross domestic product in the United States. So also in the States, family business are the most important area of the economy and the real structure of the economy. Let's have a look at Europe. 66% of the companies, of the European companies, are once again family business. That in total represent 70 million of companies with 100 million employees. And they represent between the 40 and 60% of the European gross domestic product. So also in Europe, companies owned or managed by a family represent the most important area of the economy. And the 25% of the most important 100 European companies are once again family businesses. Let's have a focus on Italy. I don't know if you've ever been to Italy. Anybody? Okay, you have to exchange the visit and come to Italy and Rome sometime. But nevertheless, what makes Italy interesting from a family business perspective is that 93% of the Italian companies are family businesses. 93%. In these companies, about these companies, the 43% of these companies are managed by the founder, so far, whose age is older than 60 years. So we have a big issues on succession and succession planning also in Italy. The 42% of these family business companies have a second generation already involved in the company. And unfortunately, the 25 or between 25 and 30%, according to the statistics, of these companies die at the starting of the second generation. And only about the 5% of the Italian family businesses survive after the third generation. We'll see that the issue or the challenge of the third generation is a challenge that exists all over the world, not only in Italy. I will show you something more later. So basically, this is the most threatening aspect of managing a family business, how we plan the succession and the future of our family business. Some more information about the structure of the Italian companies, once again to confirm the importance of family businesses. So basically, the Italian companies, once again, are very small. They employ between 1 and 9 employees. And these small companies, micro companies, represent the 95% of the total number of the Italian companies and generate about the 26% of the total revenue. You see, we have only a few amount of big companies that have more than 250 employees, only the 0.06%, and generate that 30% of the total revenue of the Italian companies. But the 70% of the revenue generated by Italian companies is made up by small and micro companies. I think that the Nigerian situation is not so different. Also, Nigerian companies have a small dimension, and all over the world, small and medium enterprises represent the wide majority of all the companies. So, if you consider the Italian situation, each year about 80,000 Italian entrepreneurs are involved in family business transfer, because there's this constant need of ensuring succession and transmitting the business to the new generations. It's a challenge, it's a real problem sometimes. Sometimes we have the heirs and the new generations that want to immediately arrive to the managing positions, and the founder is a little bit reluctant and resistant and doesn't want to leave the leadership. It happens everywhere in the world, Italy included, and I think Nigeria included. It's a challenge everywhere, and I've noticed that there are some proverbial sayings that reflect this issue. So in the United States, they said shirt lives in 3 generations. So it means we have a founder that starts the business, makes it grow, but the 3rd generation makes it collapse. In Mexico, they have a similar saying, padre bodeguero, hijo caballero, nieto portosier. It means father merchant, son gentleman, grandson beggar. Brazil, pai rico, figlio nobre, neto pobre. Rich father, noble son, poor grandson, unfortunately. China, fu bubuo sandai, wealth survives 3 generations, and similarly, la prima generazione in Italy crea, la seconda conserva, la terza distrugge. The 1st generation creates, the 2nd preserves, the 3rd destroys. So we have a problem, so somebody could say, Houston, we have a problem to survive to our 3rd generations. How can we do that? The problem is to carefully plan and manage the succession and carefully manage the balance between the interest of the business and the interest of the family, which is a quite difficult trade-off and balance. Basically, the changes in the leadership, the succession, should be seen or could represent an opportunity for the company. An opportunity to grow more, to innovate, to introduce something new and better from many aspects in terms of ownership, so potentially you can involve other useful shareholders, you can innovate a strategic and operational model, you can innovate the management and the managerial style of your company. But this can only happen, obviously, if you manage the succession plan, if you adopt a structured and managerial approach to this very important challenge and opportunity. It's a challenge because there are several issues involved, issues that regard the succession plan, that relate to the individual level, the family dimension, and the corporate culture. So, from the first perspective, in many situations, in many companies, what we notice is that the father or the founder, if you prefer to call it, sometimes it's mother, not only a father, obviously, the founder perceives a sense of loss when he or she has to leave the company and to leave the leadership to the heir, and it's really afraid to leave out, basically because he or she thinks that the heir has not the capability to perform well and to manage well the company. In terms of family dimension, sometimes the founder can have a lack of objectivity in evaluating the capacity, the talent of the heir, and usually within family business there's always an issue regarding the share of knowledge. In terms of corporate culture, some of the previous speakers talked about corporate culture, which is a serious issue everywhere. Usually, in family business, we have a paternalistic approach, not a real managerial approach, and the leader, the founder, has not a great attitude in delegating. I don't know if you have ever experienced this problem. The heirs have a continuous problem in confronting themselves with the figure of the founder. Because obviously the founder started the business, there's always psychological conflict and challenge between the heir and the founder. We talked about entrepreneurship, the meaning of entrepreneurship. There's also an issue regarding the fact that entrepreneurship can be learned or not. We are a business school, and obviously we think that entrepreneurship can also be taught and learned, but on the other hand, it's true that like anything else in life, there's a natural attitude and talent that you can have about something or you cannot have. So, can we inherit also entrepreneurship or not? It's a problem. It's difficult for the heir to be a real leader when he or she constantly has to confront himself or herself with the founder. Because the founder was the one that made it, that did it, that created the new venture. So there's also a psychological problem. We have some risks constantly regarding the corporate culture. One risk is that in a family business we don't have a rational management, but a management more based on the instinct of the founder and of the family. And on the other hand, the heir can have the problem of constantly feel the pressure of being the son of the founder, and have this psychological pressure and sense of not being able or not being the same value of the founder. Usually, in terms of managerial psychological dimension, the staff is familiar with the charismatic style and approach of the founder, and this approach, this cultural and psychological approach, is difficult to change, usually the staff of a family business has a high resistance to change. They are accustomed with the style of the founder, very paternalistic, based on its personal charisma. So they usually do not accept so much the fact that a new manager, a new CEO, whose culture is more based on formal managerial structures, enters the company and change the way to manage it. So if you already own a family business, or in the future you will own a family business, you have to confront with the fact that when you change the managerial style after the first generation, sometimes you can encounter a huge resistance. So, in terms of succession planning, we can basically have 4 situations, 4 main areas of development or resistance to succession planning. One is the one we call eluded succession, where the founder has a low collaborative behavior and also a short-term orientation. So this is the worst situation, where you can see the founder has a low propensity to delegate, low propensity to leave the managerial roles to the new generations. Basically, he or she doesn't accept the fact that sooner or later he or she will have to leave the company to someone else. So he's enchained to his or her chair, and he doesn't want anybody to sit there. A second situation is what we call the succession without abdication. So, as you can see, in this case, we have a quite good long-term orientation in terms of perspective on the business, but a low collaborative behavior. So, it means that the founder potentially has the idea and realizes the fact that he or she has to leave the company to someone else, but he doesn't involve the new generation soon enough. He does it only when he or she realizes that he can't go ahead. But by doing that, we have a problem, because the second generation enters the company and starts to manage the company without a real training and preparation. So we have a new CEO, maybe the son of the founder, that is not well prepared. So the founder leaves the managerial role to the son, but he hasn't prepared him or her well enough, and it's obviously a problem. We have a third situation that I call the deferred sensation, where we have quite high collaborative behavior, but a low long-term orientation. So basically, the founder in this situation involves the new generation. He or she lets the new generation acquire responsibilities, but the real succession takes place really late once again. So the new generation is quite well prepared, but the succession is postponed too late in the development of the company. And so there's always a lack of innovation and better development of that organization. So it's for sure it's better than the eluded succession, but it's not the right solution yet. So what is the best option that we have, that we should take into consideration? It's what we call the succession with abdication. It's when the founder is really enlightened, he has a vision also on the future of his or her business. So the founder is aware of the importance of gradually involving the new generation, and is aware of the fact that he has to leave the company to his sons or heirs in with a proper time, with a correct time. It doesn't occur frequently, unfortunately, because as I heard also from your questions, usually we have issues, we have challenges, we have conflicts within family businesses. So what can we do about that? I've listed some of the possible ideas that we can share regarding the Italian experience, but obviously something that can be applied everywhere in the world. The Family Act, the 3 traps and solutions about family business, balancing family and business, and the succession plan. So the first thing that we absolutely suggest to take into consideration in order to have a good succession planning, successful one, is the adoption of what is called Family Act in Italy. So a list of principles, guidelines and rules that help the company to manage the relationships between the family and the business in order to have a long-term perspective on the business itself and in order to ensure the fact that this family business can live beyond the 3rd generation. So basically it's an agreement that is shared within the family and is formalized, and that helps to avoid and prevent in advance all the possible conflicts. So how does it work? It's a self-regulation process. It's approved by consensus by the family members. It should be the starting point of a managerial process aimed at putting the interest of the business first and not simply the interest of the family first. The actors involved in the Family Act are obviously the current shareholders, members of the family, but it's good to involve in this internal regulation also the possible future shareholders, members of the family. When should we create and arrange a Family Act? Obviously not when the conflict is already arising, but it's something that we should plan in advance, when we don't have already existing problems. So it's something that we should arrange and create in order to anticipate the conflict. Usually we recommend to create a Family Act 10 years before the real need of succession, and in general when it's time to manage a succession plan. But the key word should be anticipation. So we should not try to arrange a Family Act when the problem is already arising. So what should a Family Act contain? So we could start usually from the values of the family business. So it's good to agree on the vision and on the values that we want to share and promote in our family business. Mission, philosophy, values. Then obviously we should include some rules that help us to regulate our activity. So rules regarding the transfer of shares, the profit sharing, the family members entering rules. So what are the rules that will help us to decide if a family member is allowed to enter the company? Because we see that it's not something that should be given for granted. Salary policies and so on. And obviously the Family Act should also include the governance, so the criteria on how to manage the rules. So the estate plans that the other speakers have mentioned, but also the family plans and the succession plans. In Italy, these Family Acts are legally recognized since more or less 10 years. So, in addition to the Family Act, there's something that we should absolutely take into consideration and to avoid in order to ensure the life of our family business. So, there's something that we should absolutely review in terms of our perspective. So, somebody says there's always a place for you here in the family business. It's the the wrong approach, because working in the family company is not a right, should not be seen as a right if you really want to ensure the fact that the family business survives for long. So we should adopt another approach, and as already mentioned, the real and good approach should be to prepare the succession and the new generations of the company by training them in a proper way, by recruiting the managers in a correct way based on merit rather than belonging to the family. Another thing to consider: the company can't grow fast enough to satisfy the needs of all the family members. So it happens quite frequently that all the family members want to enter the company or feel the right to enter the company. It cannot happen. It can destroy your business, because families grow faster than the companies, and we cannot immediately reward all the family members. So the entrance of family members in the company should be strictly regulated, and we should open the family business only to the talented members of the family. The lady before was asking what should we do if we have a son or daughter that is not interested in the company, managing